Hello, listeners, and welcome back for another Mad Scientist Roundtable. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Cogswell, and I am joined by...
Marie Mayhew.
Woo!
Woo! What's up, 24-hour party people?
What's up? So, we actually have something kind of big in store for you guys. Well, we hope it'll be big. We're planning on...
It's huge. It's huge.
Honestly,
and luxurious.
It's become a huge and luxurious, it's become such a big thing in my life, even to it's okay. Let's get to this first. This is too cryptic.
Huge.
We are thinking of doing a multi-part and kind of like long-term series. We don't even know how many episodes it'll be, but we want to really dig in deep on a certain topic. And so the first topic that we've kind of thought might be interesting are UFOs, and specifically UFOs in the area of the world where I am located right now.
In Chris's backyard.
Literally in my backyard. So I don't mean that figuratively. Literally, there was a sighting in my backyard like 50 years ago that we've only recently come to learn about. So, anyways, so we're in the beginning stages of that. And so if you think that would be of interest to you, please contact us and tell us, because otherwise, it's a lot of work. So I think we're at least going to put out 2 episodes on it at this point.
Yeah.
We both have paid money to order books at least. So at least we're going to get 1 or 2 episodes out of this thing. Okay.
And if Amazon's getting my money, I'm talking about it.
I'm telling you, but it's going to be interesting. So it'll kind of be a mix between, it'll be Marie and I, so kind of Roundtable E, but more serious, more directed towards a single thing. Anyways, one question that's very interesting when you ask people, have you seen a UFO or do you believe in UFOs or whatever, is I kind of feel like you get sort of a mixed emotion or kind of a mixed feeling. So you get some people who say, yes, I believe fully. You get some people who immediately are like, I believe, I saw one, whatever.
I saw one, and here's what it looked like, and I can tell you the time of day.
Exactly.
Yes.
You always get some, I feel like in any group, if people dug more, they would find that I feel like almost everyone at least knows someone who claims they've seen a UFO.
Yes. I'm married to that person.
Right. I think it's pretty, it's pretty common, but
yeah.
Or at least people who have seen things that they can't explain. I think part of that is it's interesting. It comes with this argument, so when I was a kid, I used to, if I kind of stayed awake too long at night, I would see points of light kind of like flash in front of my eyes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to find out that that's actually a very common, it's actually a very common effect. It's kind of like, when you rub your eyes and you see,
yes,
the TV thing.
Lights, stars, yep.
It's basically the same thing, but it's happening in darkness. And it happens because of a defect in the eye, basically. And so, in people with eyeglasses, it's, really common, actually, to see these things at night or whatever. So, when I was a kid, though, I was like, oh my god, what's going on?
It's orbs, the assholes of the UFO universe.
But it's actually just, super common. So I feel like if we were more truthful with each other about our experience, our literal experiences, probably everyone has seen something weird, you know what I mean? Or something scary, yes. At least. Some kind of scary experience.
Something that gave them pause. Yes, yeah. I would agree.
So,
I would agree with you.
Anyways, go ahead.
No, I think that the interesting thing that comes up when we're talking about this is the idea of belief. And what makes somebody believe versus what makes somebody not believe, and
right.
how vested are you one way or the other, and if you do believe, how vested are you in that belief even versus somebody who has a similar belief than you.
Well, the other thing the other part of it that I find really fascinating is you often hear, and I don't mean to, I'm not trying to besmirch anyone's beliefs or anything.
That's my job.
Right, Marie is the muscle.
I'm the besmircher.
The besmircher. You often hear the argument well, it's harmless. Yeah, grandma believes in ghosts, but whatever. It's grandma. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, she's from the old country. Whatever.
Right. What is it harmless? That's the question I find the most fascinating with these beliefs. Not whether or not they're true. I mean, it's kind of mixed in with the truth of it or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where if it's untrue, if it is untrue, is it morally all right for someone to believe something that's untrue in the absence of evidence?
Yes, which actually opens up to a much huger question of faith. Because
Right.
that's really what the argument is if you have no evidence of something and yet you believe it to the point that it affects your life and it affects you on a daily basis and it affects the decisions that you make, how you treat people, and how you view the world, how is that any different than
Right.
faith?
And so I think for many people the assumption is that if what you're believing causes you to do good things, then it is moral. Right?
Depending on your definition of good, yes.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Yes.
like, okay, we're not talking like, I mean, this gets into the whole like selfish motive. I mean, people make that argument all the time, right? If the only reason you're being good is because you're going to heaven or hell, are you
Right.
really good? Right?
Yes, or so you can tell your neighbors you're driving
Exactly.
the Prius to save the world.
Right.
Yes.
Are you really being good then? But I think, besides that utilitarian argument or whatever, right? I
Mhm.
think it is really interesting. At what point does a false belief become immoral, right? So I'm thinking even in terms of like politics or in terms of
Mhm.
like racism, right?
Mhm.
In many ways, racism is, and I'm not, again, we're not conflating racism with the belief in UFOs, unless you are saying that, like, you know, little green men or grays or whatever the hell shouldn't have the same rights as humans, right? That's not cool, man.
Yes, or some other alien race, then hey, fuck you, that's wrong.
Not cool, okay?
Not cool.
Not cool. But I think it is really interesting at the point, like I think what you said is really valid. If it affects your life,
Mhm.
if it affects other people, then it becomes moral or immoral. But I often wonder, like people that don't believe in global warming.
Mhm.
That, in my view, isn't a moral belief. It is hurting
Yes.
us. It is hurting everyone to pretend
Yes.
like global warming isn't happening.
But I would argue too, but you could now prove there is scientific evidence that global warming is happening and it is caused by us, right? I mean, there is actual proof out there. So I would say yes, it is definitely, I agree with you, immoral to believe that, but there's also evidence saying that we're fucking it up as well.
Right.
So you can't, so if you decide to turn your back on both of those things, then it's yeah, you're doubling down on being a complete asshole.
But that's the thing though, right?
But
one could argue that, but that gets into the whole question of like quality of evidence, right? Like one could argue that like all of these people saying that they've seen UFOs, right? All these people saying it is evidence that they are experiencing something. So don't we have a moral responsibility to find out what that something is?
it's like I would not have counted their recounting as evidence. But you're right. That is a form of evidence.
Right.
It is like eyewitness testimony is insofar as evidence is probably not.
Yeah.
It gets into a gray area, but it just leads to a lot of interesting different questions, and especially fitting in with the story of the stuff that's going down in your backyard, then I think it has some definite intrigue to it.
Yeah. Anyways, this is the kind of stuff. I mean, we're probably not going to get this heavy into it, honestly. This piece got super heavy all of a sudden, but like
it's because I really want to besmirch somebody, and
I
you
know.
just won't
I'm
let
sorry.
me.
I'm sorry, man. It's so bad. It's so bad on me.
Yeah.
Like I just find it fascinating. That's part of the whole That's part of the whole thing for this show, I guess, is like, can we separate a true, like, some would argue that any belief without evidence is harmful because it means that you're denying reality. You can't be pragmatic about reality, whatever. But at the same time, if that reality is, or if that belief is making you do good things, right?
Mhm.
If
Yeah,
you're
well,
like, if your belief is that you should treat people better, I mean, listen, we're getting into like Kant territory here. Never mind, Marie.
besmirch you.
Besmirch me.
Besmirch you.
All right. Anyways, this episode, we got a lot of weird
It
stuff
will
to
be
talk about.
interesting, and it will be good, though.
I think it will be
I'm
really
excited.
good. I'm super excited too, honestly. We've found we've already gotten
Crazy shit.
really crazy shit. like crazy shit that hasn't been reported before too, which is kind of interesting to me.
And we haven't even like set up any kind of scientific beacons in Chris's backyard to call to people.
Honestly, all we've done is talk. We've asked people, have you ever experienced something weird? That's all we've done.
Can we set something up like a landing strip in your backyard, though?
Listen,
Get some phosphorescence out there or something? That would be awesome.
If Bigelow's experience is any indication, we're just gonna waste $1 million and not find shit. So I say we don't.
And wet our pants the entire time.
I'm telling
and
you.
You're actually there. That would be terrible. Okay, never mind. Bad idea.
Welcome to the Mad Scientist Roundtable, Episode 4.
Anyways, this episode.
Yeah, this episode we have we both so did you just see Doctor Strange? Like, did you see it in theaters?
So I have seen it a few times. Saw it in theaters and then
Nice.
rented it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because I am, besides being a Benedict Cumberbatch fan, Sherlock, the voice of Smog, the dragon,
God.
right? Nailed that. That was good.
All of a sudden he became like super central to my media consumption.
But he was in The Imitation Game,
Which was phenomenal.
Which was really, really good.
Super good, yeah.
Super good. I just like the man can do no wrong, in my opinion.
He's super interesting.
I have some beef that we can discuss about Doctor Strange, but insofar as like the whole canon that is the Marvel universe, fucking awesome addition.
Yeah, I've always really liked Doctor Strange, but my favorite DC comic superhero was not even a superhero. It's Constantine. It's John Constantine.
Yeah.
He's so fucking cool. And like, I remember the first time I ever read him was in Neil Gaiman's Books of Magic. When he just kind of like appears out of nowhere. So good. And he just like comes out of nowhere. He's wearing the trench coat. He's smoking a cigarette. He's got this accent. I was just like, oh my God, I got to find out as much as I can about this guy. And I just have like never turned back basically. But
he's awesome. Like I think between him and Preacher, those are like, I feel like those two are in the same sort of cut from the same mold.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Like I always wish with Doctor Strange that they took him as seriously as DC took Constantine, right? Like Constantine is Constantine has the power to like fuck up Superman. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just with magic, like with trickery and whatever, right?
Yes.
Whereas in the Marvel universe, Doctor Strange can be like, his head can be ripped off by Hulk. And I've always just been kind of like, that's silly. Like, he should be one of the most powerful people, but whatever.
No, I'm with you. I think with Marvel, it's like, especially now how they're, so we can talk about like when he was really introduced in the comics, but like now I feel like he's the first actual magic that's being introduced to this universe. The first thing that is not supposed to be sort of logically bound by any set of known rules.
Well, see, like, like I wonder though. So, like Thor, right?
Yeah,
they're kind of. This is not a movie podcast, but it's too late. We've devolved.
Science, no.
We are going to talk about some science soon.
We're going to talk about the science behind it because it is very vested in science. Like all of Marvel's stuff is really good with the science.
They try pretty hard to get it into science. Yeah, the thing that I think is really interesting with the whole magical thing with Marvel, I was a little concerned with Thor because it almost seemed like they were trying to make Thor's world like fit in with the whole science side of it, right? Doctor Strange was like even in the new set, you see like the set images from Thor Ragnarok or whatever, and it's like they're all wearing like techno suits of armor and stuff, and it's like, well, that you know what I mean? Like he's literally supposed to be a Norse god using magic.
He's a Norse god.
I don't know if we really need them to be wearing like, you know, I don't know, but
stuff made by Apple. No,
why is Thor wearing any armor? He is a god. It doesn't, you know what I mean? But I do find it really interesting. Like I love Doctor Strange. I love that movie. I loved all the so the reason that we're talking about Doctor Strange is that recently in the news, or in the scientific news, a group has claimed to have formed a time crystal. So, which is pretty interesting.
Yes, this is not going to lead to any good, you know?
It's not going to do any good.
It's not, you know, we're going to have to find 8 more of them. They're going to be rainbow colored. There's going to be a big war.
So,
just heed my prediction, people.
I'm telling you, keep an eye out. So here's the interesting thing with this, right? It's a time crystal has been thought of since like 2012, right? When Frank Wilczek at MIT, who was a Nobel laureate, came up with this idea of so if you think of the height, width, and breadth as the X, Y, and Z like space dimensions, right? So we live in the third dimension. Or actually we live in the third dimension, but we have access to a fourth dimension is the argument. And the fourth dimension would be time, right? So you can place any event, you can place any object within the 4 dimensions by saying, for instance, you know, I'm at X equals 1, Y equals 2, Z equals 0, at time equals 5 seconds, right? That places time in that same kind of area, right? Or it sets time kind of as another dimension of space. So the idea of a time crystal is that you have some system that's not in equilibrium, or I don't really want to explain it this way with equilibrium, whatever. It's basically the idea that it's not symmetrical in time, but instead it's symmetrical, or it's symmetrical in time. It's not symmetrical in space.
Which is crazy.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's hard to even imagine it. Like, I just kept imagining a giant green crystal with an eye on it. So you could wear around your neck. Keep going.
So the idea is that this system would repeat in time. Okay.
Yeah.
So it has basically the argument is like it could be something like perpetual motion, right? So the pattern of this. So if we think of a crystal, right? A crystal is repetitive. A crystal, by definition, is repetitive in space. So that's why we have like, if you look up like the salt crystal, right? What's the chemical formula for salt? It's NaCl, sodium chloride. That small piece, sodium chloride, repeats in all 3 directions of salt crystal, of a salt crystal. The argument here is that it would repeat in time in some way. So you'd see an event happen at 0 seconds, then in 10 seconds, then in 20 seconds, then in 30 seconds. So it would keep repeating, right?
Okay.
So this system is basically in symmetry in the sense that it's symmetrical over a period of time as opposed to being symmetrical over a period of distance. Does that make sense?
It does.
Cool.
Where does it get the energy to do this?
Aha! So that's the thing, right?
Right? Because it would need energy.
So, if this thing was really happening the way that they said, it would break every law of energy we know. It would break the laws of thermodynamics, right? Because, like you just said, you can't just have perpetual motion, right? The argument in physics is this argument of entropy, right? So it's what's known.
Favorites.
So entropy is a very interesting concept. It's quite annoying how often it's misused in the world.
Which is probably by me. I
It's fine.
besmirch it.
It's fine. It's fine. My eyeball just pops out a little bit each time someone says something silly like, man, entropy means that, like, everything's changing all the time, bro. And it's like, shut up, man. Go back to your pot, okay? Like, don't talk physics to me.
You hippie.
You damn hippie. So, entropy, literally what entropy means is that in any process that happens, you will lose some energy so that you can't get from the way things were to the way things, like, so the best example of this is a piston, right?
Mhm.
Or let's say a wheel. You have a wheel on a car, and it takes some energy for the car to move 5 meters, let's say. Right? Okay. What entropy says is that you couldn't put in, let's say it's 10 joules of energy that you put in to move the car 5 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you did that, you could not, in a real system, input 10 joules of energy back to the car to make it go backwards to its original position.
Ah, yes.
You couldn't.
You could not.
And the reason that you couldn't is because of things like friction.
Oh, yeah. I've
right?
been using entropy wrong this entire time.
That's all right. It's fine.
I've been the one giving you the aneurysm, man.
It also does mean that things tend towards disorder, but that's like a much more complicated view. It means disorder at like the molecular level, not at like the level of, I don't know. Not at the
hippie
hippie level.
Taking it out of our business PowerPoints is the other thing.
Yes, absolutely. Please do that, Marie. You can start this from the inside.
All right. That's fine.
So entropy means, the basic definition of entropy is that no system is reversible. No system is fully reversible in the universe. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Which basically states exactly no system can be perpetual in the universe. Because you always need an energy input to go back to the original cycle.
To go back, yes.
Right? So, the researchers who have recently said that they've made a time crystal is a group at Berkeley, the University of California, Berkeley, who basically, University of California, Berkeley invents everything, so it's fine. Yeah, a bunch of hippies. I don't think these guys would use entropy that way, though. So it's Norman Yao et al. Basically. So he was the person that put forward this proposal to make a time crystal potentially, and then that blueprint was kind of followed by a group of Christopher Monroe's group at the University of Maryland, as well as a group led by Mikhail Lukin at Harvard. So they were kind of working together, whatever. And so then both of those experiments were now recently published in this March in Nature. So in that big journal that's like really important. And so in general, what they did, and this is like a very simplified reading of it, is they input energy to a system using a laser. And then they only had to input that energy like periodically, but that system showed symmetry in time. So if they measured the state of that system over time, even after they got rid of the laser pulse, it would come back, and then it would kind of come back, and then it would come back, and eventually it would dissipate. But then they could shoot another laser burst at it, basically.
But it wasn't perpetual.
No, it wasn't perpetual because they had to input energy.
Right.
Because, like, here's the thing. I don't know if people usually like, I don't know if everyday people think about why a perpetual motion machine wouldn't, or why, like, what would if we found a perpetual motion machine, what would that mean for the universe? Right?
No.
We would have limitless energy. Because it doesn't matter how small...
Zero kind of input.
Exactly.
It
doesn't matter how small the thing is, right?
Right.
It would be perpetual, so we could just make a whole bunch of them and stick them together onto a battery or something, and it would work fine. Now, it's kind of
It wouldn't stop working. That's the only problem.
So this actually brings up a very interesting point in engineering. Can you guess, Marie, what the most difficult question chemical engineering graduate students have to answer? It's about entropy. It's about a basically an engine, right? But it's an engine that I guarantee you've seen at joke and prank shops before.
Oh, seriously? Like a buzzer? Like one of the hand buzzers?
So, what do you know of any like prank or like toy or like kind of like a it was on The Simpsons. I will say this: it was on The Simpsons, very famously on The Simpsons.
This is always on The Simpsons.
I know
Everything's been on The Simpsons.
It was very famously on The Simpsons, and
Simpsons is a perpetual motion machine.
Think about a machine that seemingly does something forever without any input from you.
Oh,
that was
God.
on The Simpsons.
I have no idea.
The drinking bird toy.
Oh, snap! That's
okay.
That's
yes.
you guys' big final.
That's
what you've been writing your thesis on.
It is one of the hardest problems in chemical engineering. Okay, in physics, it is a impossibly difficult problem.
Seriously?
Okay, yes, it is. Because think about it, right? This bird is so we did one of these problems in class. One of them we did those problems like a billion times, frankly, in thermo. One of those little birds, like a 4 inches tall or whatever, can pump water from like 40 feet underground. It's crazy how efficient those stupid birds are.
For real.
They're extremely efficient. The only thing moving that bird's like the engine. So the engine would be the bird standing upright. You dip it. The only thing you input is you push it down the first time, right?
Right, yeah.
Its little head dips its beak in the water. Right? So then the liquid that's inside the bird is ethyl alcohol. So it vaporizes, it boils at room temperature really easily. So okay, here's how it works, right? You dip it down. I'm like doing hand signals for Marie, by the way. Everyone, we're like
awesome. Which translates in some serious good radio, people.
I'm telling you, phenomenal radio. This is like if we actually just described the plot to a movie. This is horrible. So the bird. Everyone at home, I want you to follow along. Okay.
Okay.
You dip
Close your eyes and visualize it. It's good.
So at the beginning, the bird
is actually going to be played.
Yes.
By Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes, exactly. At the beginning, the bottom of the bird is filled with liquid ethyl alcohol.
Okay.
And there's some of it as a vapor in the top. But it's mostly liquid. Okay. You dip the bird down, and some of that liquid will flow to the head.
Right.
It's now in contact with the wet beak. The beak water will evaporate. Right? So now it hits down. This part fills up. It swings back just from the force. Okay?
Right. Yes.
Now it's up here. The beak will start to evaporate water away. That takes energy out of the body, which causes the vapor to boil, which then fills the head, causing it to tip over again.
Well, son of a bitch.
There is so little there's so little losses from entropy in that stupid bird system. It's amazing. I would not be surprised if when an alien does land on Earth, we find out that they're powering their ship with a drinky bird.
With tiny drinky birds?
It's amazing. It's truly amazing. It's crazy. Anyway, so how does this relate to Doctor Strange, Marie? We're getting all over the place.
Yeah, that one sort of threw me.
Sorry.
So no, that's good. That's good. So after reading Time Crystals, like I said, I immediately just sort of thought of the Infinity Stones.
Right.
Because really, if I get into anything too deep or too scientific, I've got to switch over to something in pop culture just if I can. Just like I'm like that little bird. I just have to dip my head down. Oh, right. Okay, we're doing all right. So I just started to think about the Infinity Stones, but there is a lot of actual, well, maybe not actual, but some pretty solid quasi-science within the idea that they put out for Doctor Strange. One being, I would say, besides his pet cape that they give him in the movie, They talk about the idea of the multiverse,
Yep.
which is huge in science fiction, relatively big in any good comic book worth its salt.
Oh, of
has
course.
some sort of an idea of a multiverse in
They
it,
all have a damn multiverse.
and this is definitely exploring the idea of the multiverse. So that I thought was pretty interesting.
Did you
and
know?
does tie to science.
The
Boom, tied it to science.
nice the main
Drinky bird science.
the main person who thought or who first postulated the multiple worlds hypothesis in quantum mechanics, his son is now the lead of the Eels, which
Seriously?
is one of my favorite bands. They're fucking
That's crazy.
awesome. He actually did a documentary on his dad and how it affected him growing up, because his dad posited this thing as a basically as a mathematical trick almost. Like an easy way to get rid of some of the difficult math that happens in quantum mechanics. So like you come to a point in quantum where it basically has to do with, and I mean it's been 3 years since I took a class on quantum mechanics, so maybe I'm gonna totally botch this.
Lazy.
Telling you, lazy
Motherfucker, man.
The whole reason that the multiverse comes up in quantum is that you come to a point where you get something called Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which is another one of those things that's always thrown around. And basically what it is
I
is...
use that one wrong as much as entropy, if not more.
Basically what it is it's you can't simultaneously measure the position and the momentum of a quantum particle. So if you if you could know the position of an electron at any given point in time, you would have to not know its momentum.
And if you knew the momentum, you couldn't measure it.
You couldn't know the position, right?
Okay.
And the reason that this happens, or one of the interesting ways that this translates into how we describe quantum mechanics and the quantum world, is mathematically. So it's you know how you can have a function or you can have an equation that's like y equals 2 times x?
Yes.
In that function, if you know y, you simultaneously know x, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are functions though where you can't separate variables like that. They're called.
This is where I failed at it. But keep going.
Fine.
Yes,
it's fine. They're called nonlinear equations, right? And so what it means is you can't separate things so that if you know one thing, you know the other. You need some other piece of information.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
So in quantum mechanics, every equation is like that, pretty much. And the things that are linked that way are these coupled, they're called coupled variables. And they're things like position and momentum, and a spin number, and like the spin, like if it's spinning up or down the particle versus like it's something else. Again, 3 years since quantum, lazy
motherfucker, lazy.
But the multiple worlds hypothesis was given in such a way that, well, what if instead of okay, so we come to a point where we can't know them both simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if either option, like with spin, it's either up or down spin?
Mm-hmm.
What if it could be both at once?
Both at the same time, right?
And we just say
but you would need two universes for the things to exist,
and we just say that
it
kind of splits. And so then we can solve the math in either one and see how it affects our system.
Which could happen a multitude of different times.
Yeah. So that's...
infinity.
So that argument is much more sensible than what it came to mean, which was like every time you flip a coin, another universe is simultaneously created. You know what I mean? That's like how it came to be known.
Still one of the best Community episodes ever.
Well, I love the one in...
Darkest... What was it? The Darkest... Oh, I can't remember what it was called now.
I love
the Darkest Outcome. Oh, it's The Darkest Outcome.
Right.
He's missing an arm and he has a beard because of the chainsaw accident. That's the best. I know it's not exactly accurate, but that's still pretty awesome.
I loved the one. I loved the episode of what's it? I love the episode of Futurama where they do that, where it's like they go to the episode where everyone's just one what's it? One coin flip off. So Hugh Everett III is the person that came up with the many worlds interpretation of quantum theory, right? And so his son, Mark Oliver Everett, also known as E, is the leader of the Eels, which is fucking awesome band.
Can you imagine having him for a dad, though? I mean, hell yeah, you'd become a musician.
Well, it's interesting. So the documentary is really, really cool because you don't, like his dad, after his work kind of got popular in like pop culture, his dad like became an alcoholic because like the pressure was just too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like imagine all of the love of Einstein, but turned the other way, where people are like, "No, you're fucking stupid." You know what I mean?
That would suck.
Yeah.
How does so? But I was watching. So again, like I watch. And this isn't even my real beef with Doctor Strange. What I do, which I thought was really good. I did think it was really good, but you could see it play out. I don't think that it was. I saw it mostly at the very end. I don't want to spoil the film, but basically where Doctor Strange defeats the ultimate foe. I thought that was sort of the most appropriate use of something like that, of some of the more the pulp culture reference of Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that was.
But it's like
that
to me was definitely it. Them all of a sudden being able to bend time and space and create a mirror universe was sort of like, all right. It's sort of trickery, but it's not bad. It wasn't bad. Like that to me was good.
Yeah, I think that's partially why I've always liked Constantine better than Doctor Strange, is because he does like, again, we don't want to spoil the ending, but like uses logic within a universe to kind of like, the rules of this universe, so you can use those rules to your advantage to get an outcome you want.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think that
I loved that. I thought that was phenomenal. Yeah, I really liked that.
The end was the most convincing part of it.
Yeah,
now,
the end was really good. And we're back. We actually had to cut short the recording last time because I did something that I have seriously, Marie, I'm not even kidding. I have docked people, over my lifetime, probably 1,000 total points of test score for doing.
You've cut off fingers.
Which is getting rid of my mathematical work to answer a listener question. So okay,
Dude.
I know, it's bad. I feel bad. All my undergrads are at home listening to this being like, or the ones that like me still, even though I took points away. They're like listening to this and being like, "Damn it, Chris."
And all the other ones are vindicated. They're vindicated.
Everyone else is
They're raising up in the streets with like pitchforks and torches coming up to your locale.
The question that we are answering here is from a listener, Elizabeth Smith, who I think I actually just sent a sticker to as well. So thank you very much.
Howdy do, Elizabeth.
Thank you
very
much.
Excellent question.
And if I haven't sent you a sticker yet, please send me your info and I will send you a sticker. And that's what I think we're going to do from now on. When people ask questions, we'll send them stickers.
Awesome stickers.
I think everyone...
Wait, do they glow in the dark?
They don't glow in the dark yet. Oh, Marie, Marie's making checks my ass can't cash.
These are going to be the vintage prototype round one, rare and hard to find stickers.
I'm telling you, someday when we're
valuable,
famous or infamous, this will be a good thing. Okay, anyways.
We get that mad Netflix money.
Telling you, yo. Mad Netflix, hit us up. We got some ideas for shows.
Mad Netflix, cause
honestly, if we had, so I always talk about this, if we had like, even if we just had like $1,000, which hopefully we will soon have $1,000 because I will have a job maybe. But with like, I would love to test the infrasound hypothesis of ghosts so hard.
Even though Mythbusters did it? Even though their stats reflected 25%.
Right. So what I would like to do is, not even just infrasound, I would love to make basically like a confined space that no external force fields get into. And then we could put in like ghost hunting equipment and stuff. And like, okay, we turn on the, whatever, the microwave or whatever it is, right? Obviously we would need some like, I mean, for me to like, if I really had my way, we'd be able to do every type, like we'd be able to do x-rays and stuff and whatever and see if that changes things. But I think like, I think magnetic fields and, even like, even finding a way to generate infrasound or a slight magnetic charge in an like, because it's not infrasound that actually should be tested necessarily. That was one thing that always bothered me with that MythBusters episode. It's not infrasound that makes you see ghosts. It's not like makes you see ghosts or whatever. That makes you feel scared in some theories, right?
Right.
What the argument that I find most interesting is that if a sound wave frequency that's inaudible to you but hits your body in such a way that your body has effects, like is affected by it. So one of the most interesting ones is a sound wave that is at the right resonant frequency of your eyeballs liquid. It'll actually make your eyeball vibrate, and you will see, according to research, and this is real research too.
There goes the dinner. Thank you.
Sorry,
Chris. Thanks for the liquid in my eyeball. Thanks for making me visualize the liquid in my eyeballs vibrating.
This will vibrate, and then you will actually start to see, like, basically when they've tested this on people, they see shadow people. Basically, they see something behind them in their periphery.
Interesting.
So I think that is the more interesting question, not like, do sound waves make you feel scared? Because that's kind of already been tested a billion times. The more interesting question to me is there like a range of vibrations that can be made in a home that would make you feel like, you know what I mean?
Now, but why couldn't you test this on a small scale to start?
No, listen, I'm talking about I'm talking about testing it on a small scale. Like I would say we'd start with like something, a desktop size, whatever thing.
Yeah. That
you just stick the ghost hunting equipment inside of and see what the raised, see what the stuff does to it, whatever. Or like a helmet that just vibrates your jellies.
The trademark IBU.
Yes, the IBU.
The trademark IBU.
Oh boy.
Patent pending, people. Back off.
Anyways.
IBU.
Okay, so that's a huge tangent. The question that the listener had is from Elizabeth Smith. And she asked the following, quote, I have a question for the next roundtable. If, as the Bible says, it rains for 40 days and 40 nights, can it truly flood the world covering all the landmass? And then she says, she doesn't think it'll work mathematically, but she'd love the analysis of the team. So
my team, it's again, it's Chris and me being like, woo!
You ask good questions.
Sounds good.
You ask good questions. Yeah. Okay, so I did some research here. Now, the first thing that's really interesting to me, as anyone who's ever done any kind of thermodynamics or engineering or any sort of whatever, last time even we talked about how energy can't be created or destroyed, and neither can mass, right? So, so the amount of water that's on the Earth is cycling all the time, right? So, the interesting thing then is what sort of event would cause this sort of thing to happen. So, for instance, what I mean to say is, we can get a pretty good approximate guess of how much water there is on the Earth at any given time, right? And so, water actually does escape into space in small amounts. I actually didn't look into that too much.
So you're saying you'd have to have an exponential amount more introduced than already is cycling.
What I'm saying is you would need. No, what I'm saying is that all the water that could cycle, all the water that could be in the cycle is already here because it's a cycle. It's a closed cycle.
But
Water,
I think, okay, so
like water
there's
doesn't.
yeah, but there's extenuating circumstances in this scenario in that
Yeah.
it is a faith-based event that's
Yes,
introducing
of course.
the water.
Yeah.
It's not like we're doing actual. It's not that it didn't happen. I'm just saying that there's more to it. Deus ex machina.
Yeah. So this is the idea, right? So here's an answer. First off, so the first question we had is, if the Earth is a closed system, right? Well, first off, is the Earth a closed system? Is water evaporating to space? Okay. And this was actually answered on thenakedscientists.com, which is a really cool website. So I think everyone should check it out. So they said, basically this exact question. They said, we put this question to Luca Montalban, Atmospheric, Oceanic, and Planetary Physics Department at Oxford University. And
damn, son, it's quite a title.
It's a great title, right? Damn, man. So anyways, what they said was, the retention of water vapor on our planet is favored by the fact that it can condense from clouds at an altitude well below the one from which water molecules can escape and precipitate back to the ground as rain or snow. So, to summarize, even if a few water molecules are continuously lost to space, the average level remains fairly constant over geological times, which is what we want. So the answer to that question then pretty much is no, not enough.
It's a closed loop.
Yeah, no, not enough water escapes into space to make a big difference.
Shout out to Dr. Montalban.
Real talk. So, if we then just look at the total amount of water on Earth at any given time, the total amount of water on Earth is 1,386,000,000 kilometers cubed of water. That's a lot of water. Now, 96.54% of that is in the ocean. So, let's assume that the ocean will stay ocean. Okay? How deep would the water go above sea level if all the rest of it dropped as rain? Yeah, if it all dropped as rain. So we're assuming no groundwater either. Like the soil isn't sucking in water at this point. Right?
It's all just sitting right on top.
Exactly. So if we do that, then we can just take the area of the Earth, which is 196.9 million miles squared, which equals to 5.099 times 10 to the 14th power meters squared. And then I can do the volume of water divided by the surface area of the Earth and get the height of the water, basically, that would be everywhere.
That we're going to have to build our ark to.
So, what we found was that if you do that, it ends up being 94 meters of water above sea level. Which, like, isn't even enough to get to the top of Mount Everest. So it's it's
Elizabeth
a lot.
Was right.
So Elizabeth, you are right. It pretty much wouldn't affect. So it wouldn't affect anything. But here's the thing though, right? We are assuming that it's falling all on the Earth at the same time. Like, we're not taking into account what happens to on the surface of Mount Everest. What happens to the water that hits the side of Everest and then pools in the valley on the side of Everest? We're not taking that into account. So, likely, areas like, Florida
Sloppy work.
I know. So in other words, it would probably pool. There would be water damage. There would be significant water damage.
People are going to get damp. It's going to be damp.
So, the other thing we did was, like Marie said, it is not a science-based, really, idea. So, let's assume that God can drop as much water as he or she wants at once.
Yeah.
So first off, we looked at rain averages to try to get how much rainwater is put on the Earth at any given time. Or how fast rain is known to actually go. Because we're assuming that if God did this once, he does it, he doesn't do it all the time, but God controls the flow of rain. So let's just take it an average.
This is a special punitive occasion.
Okay.
They're not doing this. God's not doing this all the time. He's not whipping this stuff out all the time.
A special punitive occasion.
It is. Well, it's like there's only one written course of events of the Great Flood, right?
It's true. So, okay. So
far,
So first off, the highest rain average in a year is in Mount Cernum Megaloha. Man, it's in India. I have a lot of Indian friends listening to this that are at home shaking their heads right now.
And they're probably pissed because they've always shown their math, and they're like,
I know. Okay, so this is in a part of India that gets hit with monsoons all the time, and what they found, or what the average there that was the highest ever, was 467 inches of water in a single year. Now that averages out to 1.28 inches per day. That's a lot of rain, but it's not even close to the fastest rainfall ever calculated. The fastest rainfall ever calculated was in Holt, Missouri, where they got 12 inches of rain in 42 minutes.
Another punitive act of God on Missouri.
Holt, Missouri, get your shit together, man. Okay. So that comes to 17 inches in a single hour.
Good God.
That's crazy.
I would never have guessed if you put an entire globe in front of me and said, find the fastest, I would have never been like, you know what? Missouri.
I probably would have thought monsoon area, right? I probably would have thought like India.
Maybe Hawaii?
Yeah, like maybe? I would have thought someplace that has tropical storms regularly, not Missouri.
Not that Missouri's not tropical.
No, it's
but it's tropical.
Highly tropical. So, if we assume 17 inches per hour of maximum rain rate, right? Then that means that we get in a 40-day period, so 40 days and 40 nights, we get 1,081.6 feet of rain. Oh, no, okay. Without any losses to soil, it's 1,360 feet of rain. Okay? With losses to the soil, which I did account for in this case, using a groundwater flow rate of 1 foot per day of groundwater, we get 1,081.6 feet of rain. Now, that is considerably more than 94 meters. That ends up being... So, that ends up being 329 meters of rain. So, if we looked at it then, and then the highest value, 1,360 feet, which would be without rainwater loss, is 414 meters, approximately, like 415 meters of rainwater. So, that means that if it rained as hard as it did in Holt, Missouri for 40 days and 40 nights, there would be almost 4 times the amount of water on Earth currently not in the ocean. Now,
problematic.
Yeah, so obviously, like, we don't know.
Even for Holt, Missouri.
Even for Holt, Missouri, yeah, it'd be bad. So, I think we can pretty well say that, there's not a huge concern for this to be, you know what I mean, to be like a real issue. You can actually, it's kind of interesting. You can look at a flood map of the United States, and you can see where, what would be the most, like, damaged areas, I guess you'd say. Basically, like, the entire coast, but interestingly, pretty much the coast would be screwed. That's kind of it, almost. Like, it's kind of sad. Like, a lot of, like, obviously, like, okay, New York City's gone. DC is pretty much gone. Cali, Oregon, California is mostly underwater.
Gone.
There's a lot of mountains there, though, so a lot of it would be safe. But
Florida?
Yeah. I tell you who would get hit hard. Oh, Florida's dead. Florida's dead in that scenario. Yeah,
strange state. They might survive this.
All of Florida ends up in the water in that case. Like, Florida's all below 63 meters of elevation. I'll tell you who gets hit real hard, though, is South America, it looks like, gets hit pretty hard by this.
Pretty hard. Now, talk to me about Missouri. They're looking okay?
Oh, Missouri's sitting pretty. Missouri's got nothing to freaking worry about.
See, it would become that would sort of be the new Mecca.
Let me look. Actually, that's actually a really good question. Where the hell is Missouri on this map? There it is. Okay. Yeah.
Forget about showing your map.
All right.
Finding Missouri?
We're
Come
good.
on, man.
We're okay. Yeah, Missouri would be Missouri actually would be kind of. It's interesting. Missouri is like 133 meters on average, and then higher. So Missouri should be okay, but parts of Missouri would be underwater probably, but little small amounts. So you're all right, Missouri. Good job.
Telling you.
Nice.
Shout out. I was a little, a little snarky to Missouri, and that was just asshole-ish of me. Missouri, shout out.
Little did you know.
Little did I know, man. And it's true, though. It's true.
Yeah.
Because God knows they could probably deal with this stuff better than a coast.
Oh, I'm telling you, they yeah. Oh, yeah, probably.
Shit.
Give us
like a sprinkling of rain out here, and we'll freak the fuck out. Missouri has to deal with serious weather.
So that is the answer to the listener question.
Nice.
So thank you.
Nice listener question.
Thank you, Elizabeth Smith, for asking that cool question. That was pretty awesome. So we'll get send other questions, please, everyone.
If you vibrate your eyeball jelly really hard, Elizabeth, the sticker glows in the dark. It glows in the dark.
It's true. And all kinds of other weird stuff will happen too. Good times. Cool.
Excellent.
All right, Marie, what do you got this week?
So, knowing that our brethren over at Astonishing Legends was starting to dig into kooky aeronautic events such as Flight 19 over the Bermuda Triangle, right? Which is where the what is it, 5 planes disappear.
Yeah.
And are never heard from again.
And electronic fog, where, by the way, I do not like to set fires. Fires just sometimes must be set, okay? That's just the way they must be set in the name of science. In the name of science. So one time
demands.
What was it? We were looking at the Mary Celeste, right?
Oh yeah.
And
this is excellent.
I was like, "Oh, I know how to do that experiment in the backyard. Give me a couple minutes."
And wait, say what it was, because people are like, "What kind of fucking experiment?"
So the Mary
sticking a boat out in the backyard.
So the Mary Celeste was this boat that supposedly it disappeared, and so one of the theories was that the Mary Celeste actually was abandoned because the alcohol that they were carrying kept combusting in the chamber or in the body of the ship, but not hot enough to actually burn the ship, just enough to make a pressure wave that scared everyone on board.
Big loud noise.
Right. And so and the theory works because some of the oak barrels they were using, right, were a type of oak that's very porous, and it actually leaks a lot of alcohol. So anyway, I was like, well, enclosed alcohol in a small container, even with a very small blast or a small spark rather, will spontaneously, light up, but it won't get hot enough to burn anything. Or singe anything. There'd be no evidence of a burning happening. So to show this, I stuck a piece of paper inside of a basically inside of a glass container that was sealed with a bunch of vodka in it. I let the vodka evaporate a bit. I then popped it open quick, lit a match, and it created a fireball that it's a fireball. I make it sound way more badass than it is. A really small fireball. I actually made a video of it and I put it on YouTube. It's still up there, I'm sure. I think I got
which was enough to make Scott Philbrook quiet bleed out of his eyes, because we hadn't signed any sort of insurance claim or anything like that. Scott. And my contribution was yeah, do it.
Right.
Go set fire.
Right. Marie was egging me on, and Scott was like, "Listen.
Wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, you guys. What's going on? And I'm like, too late. He's gone.
He's gone. He's already on fire. Ha ha ha. Yeah. That was fun. That was a good time. Anyways, okay, so
that was fun as soon as your eyebrows grew back and
listen, there was no fire.
There was no nobody set fire to anything.
No damage at all. Okay, so
Science set fire.
So we're on planes. We're on planes. We're kind of on planes, yeah.
We're on planes. So basically, they were looking at Flight 19, which is very well known in the oeuvre of the Bermuda Triangle. However, my mom, who just turned 80, happy birthday, Mom!
Happy birthday!
She is a native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and so she listens to their podcasts, heard electronic fog, and then brought up this incident that happened in 1956, January 31st of 1956, where a plane, a B-25 bomber, so it's slightly smaller than the ones in Flight 19. A B-25 is got it's like 15 feet tall at its tallest peak, and 67. The wingspan is like 67 feet. So it still you can house up to 6 to 7 people, I believe, like 6 at its tops. Still a pretty big plane. A B-25 actually landed in the Monongahela River. So just to step back, in Pittsburgh is actually at the convergence of 3 different rivers. It's called the Three Rivers area. And they even had a football stadium called Three Rivers and a baseball stadium called Three Rivers. So it's the Allegheny, the Monongahela, and the Ohio River all come together in one place, and that is Pittsburgh. And so they have a lot of bridges. They have a lot of waterways. So in 1956, at around 4 o'clock, so it's very cold, this plane all of a sudden comes basically out of nowhere. It is losing altitude. It's out of gas. It's having engine problems. And it lands on the Monongahela River.
Okay.
So it lands. All 6 people are able to get out of it. It takes about 15 minutes, and it sinks.
Okay.
4 of the people survive. The plane, however, is never seen or found. It vanishes.
Okay.
Okay? So you've got this plane, and at the deepest, sort of the standard, the deepest point, the Monongahela River is maybe 20 feet deep. And it goes down, so people see it coming. It almost clips one of the bridges. So it flies, if you're imagining like a Jerry Bruckheimer film, it's very dramatic. It flies almost through a bridge. It's 4 o'clock on January 31st, so it's a holiday, but it would still be pretty heavily trafficked in an area outside of Pittsburgh. So still not huge, but like not a lot of people, but still, it's still gathering attention. So immediately people see it coming down, people see it land in the river. Emergency crews are sent out. They try and get as many people as they can. They lose 2 of the people, but then immediately afterwards, on February 2nd, they begin to try and drag the river to find this B-25 bomber. Okay, and the B-25 bomber, again, it's not a small thing. It's a big plane. They can't find it.
Interesting.
They drag the river twice. So they can't find it.
So the thing that I found here on this was so just to put some kind of numbers to this. So people saw the crash and the search and the people and the rescue of people from the boat.
It was a widely a big event.
So this says the odds. So this is actually from damninteresting.com. So it's good. That would be my URL. Okay, so it says the odds of finding the plane seemed pretty good. At the crash location, the river was only 500 to 1,000 feet in width, 25 to 35 in depth. In comparison, a B-25 bomber is 52 feet long, 17 feet tall, and has a wingspan of 67 feet. So, it's a plane. It could sit right. There's only so many places it's gonna go. Right. It could sit wide, but not necessarily deep. Right. And so if it's sunk on the wrong angle, the wing would fly up or whatever. What's interesting here, this is from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. This thing says the B-25. So this is a team of people that found it supposedly in 95. Right? Supposedly. This is not confirmed. So this is their theory. Their theory is that, and this is the first thing that I thought too, was I used to go vacationing in Pennsylvania every summer. Those rivers are muddy and there's a lot of silt and there's a lot of gravel and stuff, and so there's a lot of cars as well. There's a lot of stuff in those rivers. It's an industrial town, and there's a lot of stuff in those rivers, especially during that time frame. I think. What I was thinking was sunk to the bottom and got immediately sucked up by mud or dust or something.
But not that deep. How could it be sucked up that much?
Well, this is the argument that they say the B-25 is buried approximately 150 feet off the left descending bank of the Monongahela.
The Monongahela.
The Monongahela. Okay.
The Monongahela.
At mile point 4.9 at a place known to rivermen as Bird's Landing. Rivermen. Cool. Bird's Landing, that's not in the quote. Bird's Landing was once a tie-off spot for barges. Bird's Landing was also a favorite stopping place for, quote, gravel pirates, end quote, who dredged gravel from the river and sold it to customers along the Monongahela, Allegheny, and Ohio rivers. It was the activities of these entrepreneurs
grandfather was a gravel pirate.
Really?
No. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Come on! That would have been awesome. I was like, no way!
My
it was
God,
the...
Damn
it, Marie!
Andrew.
Damn it, Marie!
Fearsome Andrew. Europe was the worst of the gravel pirates.
It was the...
He had the look in his eye when he would sense the gravel.
This is challenging. This is a challenge. It was the activities of these entrepreneurs that created the open pit that would eventually be the burial site of the B-25. Somewhere in that filled-in gravel pit, under 32 feet of water and 15 feet of silt, lay the remains of a B-25.
But here's my rebut to that: is they dragged this thing twice in under 2 weeks, almost immediately, like within a day and right after.
Well, I guess though too
even with the current. So I didn't do any math on how fast the current was moving and how it would take the weight of this bomber down. But I don't think, like, this thing's big. It's heavy. I think it would fight the current and would just settle. Like, it would just sort of the angle in which it would probably go down. I don't know if it would be just swept along necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's just fucking weird, in my opinion.
So
they can't find hide nor hair of it. Like, even now, like, they say they found it, but they haven't found it. They say, oh, it's there. But then in 1995, they went back with some, sonar equipment, still can't find it. They're talking about going back now in the present day and looking for it, but it's still a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, so what was this? It was just a routine, it's a routine flight. They were, let me try and figure out where they were headed to. It was an emergency landing, so it was definitely, nothing was planned.
Mm-hmm.
They landed, and when they landed on the water, the plane was 100%. It didn't break, so it's not like it came apart and it's in all these pieces, and that's why it got swept and it's hard to find. I mean, either it is. I know I'm not supposed to use entropy or uncertainty theory, right? I'm not supposed to use those, but it's Schrodinger's cat. It's either there or it's not, right?
Yeah.
It's not like Schrodinger's cat, but
it's not like Schrodinger's cat.
It's like Schrodinger's cat. But here's the thing: it's either in there or it's not in there.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I think it's interesting. Like, so yeah, I think so.
So here's the thing. Wouldn't you notice people taking it out? Like, again, it's not an abandoned area; it's well trafficked.
So let's like fill in there. So there are conspiracy theories about this thing.
Oh God, yeah.
Right, and that's the thing. That's the thing that's so interesting about this is that there's conspiracy theories that, like, the plane. So actually, the plane, I guess, was going to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, according to this thing from the Post-Gazette. But the thing that's really interesting with this is so people say that, okay, yeah, there's aliens on board, right? That's always the good one. There's aliens on board this plane. It had secret government, I don't know, like nuclear bombs or something or whatever.
It was the Nazi bell.
Right, it was Der Glocker.
Der Glocker.
Der Glocker. So the thing that's so I think it's kind of silly to think that there's any conspiracy about this, because it's like we lose planes all the damn time in all kinds of places. This reminds me of,
dude, we don't lose planes. This is not like, this is as deep as a little bit deeper than a swimming pool. I mean,
a really big yeah. I mean,
But
No,
I mean,
I'm
okay,
with
so
you.
it's wide
I'm with
across.
you.
So it's wide across, but it's not that deep. Like that's weird. I mean, granted, I'll give you we lose planes all the time, but if you ran the stats for how many planes do we
No, yeah,
lose in rivers?
yeah. Well, I think the part that makes it really weird too is that people saw it land. It's not like it landed in the middle of the night or something. It just landed, and then the people got out of the plane, and then like they just lost the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
where they think that it landed is 20 feet. They're saying 20 feet deep
is where it landed.
It's where it landed.
See, that's the thing. Like, I would think that it would either have. I mean, yeah, like the good thing with the good thing. I guess I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like, could it have? I'm thinking of like that again. Oh God, everything goes back to The Simpsons. That episode with Lisa's the giant log with Lisa's face on it.
Oh my God.
And it tips over and it goes flying and then it goes out to sea. I'm thinking of the same thing. Like, could this plane have like broken loose and I'm thinking, so where does this river lead? Right?
But like, don't you think, like, I don't know, I think it would have to go through a lot to
no.
Maybe it broke up.
I'm with you.
And then
I'm absolutely with you with that. But that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, like, if it fell in the river, unless someone took it out of the river, it has to be in the river or wherever the river connects to.
Or so here, they were on a routine training flight from Nellis Air Force in Nevada to pick up a cargo of airplane parts at Olmsted Air Force Base in Harrisburg, Pittsburgh. It did refuel during the cross-country flight at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma, and again at Selfridge in Michigan. Mm-hmm. So it did refuel a few times. It's just strange that too. It's like, that the fuel gauge was suddenly empty and completely empty. The engine malfunctioned, and there was no airstrips nearby. So Major William Dotson, who was piloting the plane, made the decision to put it down on the Monongahela, and did survive. So I haven't really, and there's not like a lot of interviews with him after this as well. But I'm with you. Like, maybe somehow it got sucked out to sea. I don't know. I would have to go back in. So this
is
where does stuff lead out to?
So this is from the Pittsburgh Magazine.com website, and so this was published February 1st, 2017. So not that long ago. Yeah. It's titled "Search to Begin Anew for Missing B-25 in Monongahela River." Monongahela River. Awesome name. This says the B-25 recovery group, headed by John Aldrich and Bob Shima, believes that the plane sank in a 47-foot gravel pit at Bird's Landing, where J&L Steel Company used to secure their barges. A demolished icebreaker also rests there, which likely foiled previous attempts to search for the bomber. 61 years later, the gravel pit is only 32 feet deep, burying any remains.
Shit, do they have any in the bottom of that place? They've got because I was reading it's like that they have when they did.
Okay. Now here's the thing. The group has received a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers to search and drill every 5 feet of the area during a dive tentatively scheduled for fall. The pollution of the Monongahela, which was even worse in the 50s, makes it unlikely that any of the aluminum has survived. So it fell into this polluted river and it was eaten up by acid, it sounds like.
But not immediately.
But
again, there was a period of time that they were looking for that thing.
This says, however, searchers will use a magnetometer which can locate ferrous metals in hopes of locating steel from the plane's landing gears, engine blocks, and oil tanks. According to Shima, an aquabiologist, the oil tanks should be about 20 feet apart, and because they're partially made of rubber, the 37 gallons of oil in each tank may still be there. So that's really interesting. So I guess what they're saying is that it probably fell in the river, went to this this pit kind of thing, and then I guess because there was I read another part the other day when you told me about this story for the first time that the first time they dredged it, they actually caught onto a wing, but then they caught onto the wing, right? Yes. So I wonder if...
I think they caught onto something. But they don't, again, like, because it's a river, because it's like it's freezing cold. It's the middle of January. I mean, Pittsburgh in these conditions is fucking brutal.
Right.
It's like a cold. That's cold, and you're on the
Right.
water. I mean, but it's like, to me, it's like, I don't know, within those 2 weeks, they should have at least been able to say,
Find something.
okay, it's here, or we found something, or we can conclusively say. But to walk away and be like, we have no idea. We don't know what happened to it.
I wonder how bad, like,
That's crazy.
what I'm thinking is, like, if the pollution was bad enough to eat the aluminum off the plane, I'm thinking probably it wasn't safe for, like, how long ago did we have divers?
Well, yeah, I don't think you couldn't put them in that water anyways to find it. I mean, you would have to be dealing with grappling hooks, but like, how long would it take for that acid to eat that plane? Like, how many years is that? It's not going to happen in, like,
I mean,
that's really great. So not only have we dogged on Missouri, but now we're going after Pittsburgh. It's not like, it's like you put your tooth in the Coca-Cola and it evaporates in a day and a half or something.
I mean, you would be surprised.
I don't know. It's not like 2 weeks.
Aluminum is so the way that they protect aluminum from corrosion is they basically like anodize the outside of it. I mean, anodizing. Well, I mean, there's a couple things you could do, but anodizing is probably the most like the one of the most well known ways, and that's what makes aluminum like kind of pretty and shiny. Is it's anodized? It's an oxide surface on it.
Which I would assume they would do with all of the bombers.
Oh, they definitely did. That's
yeah.
like how they developed that technology partially, was making military planes.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm thinking, though, is, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It's really interesting. I wonder if they're, I mean, we should keep an eye on it. I wonder if they're going to find anything.
I don't know. I'm also curious about gravel pirates.
Where I'm very concerned about the pirates stealing our gravel. I'm definitely concerned about
gravel pirates.
It's not a good look.
I like that idea. And Pittsburgh would have gravel pirates. That's pretty good. Yeah. So no, I mean, it's just like, it's my favorite sort of little oddball story because it's like, it's nowhere near the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah,
right?
That's interesting.
But it's like, it's got a couple, like, to me, if you just, I don't know, they should have been able to find it. It should have been a known thing, and they put a lot of resources towards it, and nothing.
Right.
And still nothing. And it's, and that to me is like, that's pretty interesting and very much overlooked. I had never heard of it before.
I had no idea.
Brought it up.
I had no idea.
I know.
Really cool.
Shout out Pittsburgh.
Yeah, hey, if you're listening to this in Pittsburgh or the surrounding area or whatever, you know what I mean, hit us up. Yeah. Tell us if you've heard of this story before.
Yes,
it's pretty cool.
Don't go skinny dipping.
No,
in the Monongahela.
Don't go skin. And please tell us if we're saying that name wrong. I'm
saying it right.
You're saying.
I think I've said so much wrong on your show. I have butchered so many things. I actually think I'm getting the Monongahela right, and I believe it is even called by the Pittsburgh natives as the Mon.
Ooh, all right, making some big claims here, Marie.
I know. I'm doubling down. Not only I'm saying the plane's gone, and you know why it's gone? And Forrest Burgess would back me up on this. Time warp. Multiverse. Quantum event. Multiverse. The plane's gone.
Oh no.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's entropy. It was entropy, my man.
All right.
And on that.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We will be back soon. So actually, I'm thinking I will release this one along with. I might actually tonight release the interview I did with Mick West first, because this is going to take a little bit of editing, and then so probably midweek this will release, and then hopefully next weekend there will be another episode, which I am hoping to do on the various shapes of the Earth that people seem to think is going on. So flat Earth, hollow Earth, all that good stuff.
Hollow Earth, still my favorite.
It's so funny.
Still my favorite.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. I am Chris Cogswell.
I'm Marie Mayhew. Thank you.
Thank you.